Indeed, everyone, there are 3 big lions in front of me, but something else has just come and joined us, and these lions are looking at it. It is a massive, massive elephant bull just off to my right. Wow. And I think he is in must, so he might be a little bit more aggressive, but he seems relaxed at the moment. Wow, he's very, very big. Look at those tusks. He's beautiful. That was a nice surprise. We just heard the branches breaking behind us, and as we turned around, he was very, very close. Now, I think if this male had to smell these lions, he would probably chase them, because elephants don't like predators being around, or any animals for that matter. So I'm just having a good look and seeing what he does. I don't think he's seen the lions yet, but the lions are watching him. They will be very cautious of that big elephant. They don't want to get in his way, not at all. But how beautiful are these males? And 3 of them, these are 3 brothers that we see here on Wild Earth, on Safari Live. They're part of a coalition of 4 males, in fact. Now, I'm not sure where the other brother is. Sometimes they move around in different areas, basically patrolling their territory, but they do meet up now and then. And these males are really, really in their prime. They've got big, big territories, or a large territory that they all patrol. They keep other lions out. It really is great to see them. But look how full their bellies are now. Remember I said my friend James found these lions this morning. They were feeding on a buffalo, or the remains of a buffalo, and they've got very full bellies. Now it's nice and cool weather, as we said earlier, so that's why the lions are lying out in the open, because sometimes they can go and rest in the shade. They prefer being in the shade if it's very, very hot, just like we would. But luckily for us, it's nice and cloudy, so it's not hot. So that's why they're right out in the open, and we've got such a wonderful view of them. And these lions wouldn't necessarily charge the elephant. Now, in some parts of southern Africa, or some parts of Africa, the lions have learned to hunt elephant. Big prides of lions, they will hunt elephant, but it's very unusual. And usually the lions, if they do hunt the elephant, it would be the younger elephant, or maybe small females. But a big male like that, these lions would not even try and chase him, because they know that male could easily kill one of these lions. Easily. Just with a flick of the trunk, he could throw these lions very, very far. So they are so big and so powerful. These lions know that there's no chance of them trying to hunt that big male. So that's why they would not try and chase him. But younger, smaller elephant, yes, definitely. And it does happen in other parts of Africa. Probably not so much here. I have never heard of lions hunting elephant in this area where we are. Look at that one. His belly is so full. He's really had a lot of meat, you can see, and that's why they're just lying, resting. Just like us. Think of when you've had a big, big meal. It does make you feel a little bit tired, doesn't it? And these lions will rest, and then later, probably later tonight, when it starts to cool down, even more, and probably when it starts getting dark, they might get up and move around, depending on if that buffalo is finished or not. I can't see the carcass where we are at the moment. I'll see if we can get a look at it, but the lions are lying in the road, so we'll just wait here for a while. Maybe they do move. Maybe one of them goes off to feed. Kimura, no, not all lions have manes, only the males. Now, the males have these beautiful big manes, and these are big dominant males. But the reason for the mane is to protect the head and the neck, because the lions do fight a lot, especially these males. They'll fight other lions, and they need something to protect their neck and head from being bitten or being scratched by those very big paws. So that is why the big males have the manes. One of the main reasons is to protect the vital parts of the neck and the head if they do get into fights with other lions, and also to look attractive for the females. They want to look like they're big and strong, so those big manes help them look like that. But only the males. The females do not have manes. Now, I think that elephant has moved off completely. I can't see him anymore. He moved away in that direction. Now, Chloe, you asked what makes a lion growl. Now, Chloe, lions will growl for many different reasons, but when they growl at one another, it's usually if they're aggressive. Perhaps if they're feeding. Say, for example, these lions were eating a buffalo, and the males were trying to feed together. Then they fight for the best piece of meat. It's very, how can you say, there's a lot of competition. Even though they're brothers, they don't like sharing. These lions do not like sharing very well. So when they are eating, they'll growl at each other and they'll make a lot of noise. Sometimes they'll even hit each other, even though they are brothers. So it is interesting to see their behavior when there's food around. Other times when you hear that big roar of the lions, that wonderful sound, very loud, it sounds something like this. They go, mm, 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 mm. Now that sound is when the lions are calling one another, and also to warn other lions that they are in the area. And that's a wonderful sound, the roar of a lion. It is an incredible sound to hear in the bush. So, Landon, we are completely in the wild at the moment. These are wild lions, and this is a very big game reserve we are in. And you wanted to know how we find them. Well, Landon, the best way is we track them. So we'll see perhaps their footprints on the roads or in the bush, walking in directions, and we'll drive around and we look for these animals. It's not always easy, and they're not always just out in the open like this. We're lucky today because it is so much cooler, and they just decided to come and lie out in the open. But it takes time, it takes a lot of effort. We do have to look very, very carefully to find the animals. But luckily, we're then able to show you the animals when we do find them. Okay, and these male lions will definitely fight one another over a female lion. Lions, you know what, the best way to describe it, lions in general are just always very aggressive. If it's for a female, if it's for food, and if it's for territory or basically the territory is better known as the home range or the home. So the area that the lions live in, they will protect that against other lions constantly. But so that they will fight for food, and these males, even these brothers, will fight to have a female close to them. So yes, they definitely fight for females. You can actually see, have a look closely everyone, you see those scars on that lion's face, lots of scratches and scars. That's all from fighting with perhaps his brothers, perhaps other lions. Even females will sometimes hit males if they are too close to a kill. They get aggressive with each other too. Now, we're going to sit with these lions a little bit longer, see if they do move. Let's head back to my friend James on the other vehicle and see what he's got. Scavenge. Now, these males have not moved. They are still lying down just behind me. So what we're going to do is wait a little bit longer. I will take a drive around and just have a look at that carcass shortly. And just see if those lioness, there was a lioness here earlier this morning. I'm not sure if the whole Nkuhuma pride was around. I actually didn't ask James. From what I saw, I only saw the males and one female. So it'll be interesting to see who is around. So we're going to have a look at that carcass a little bit later and just see what's around there. But I think there must still be a lion or two around if those vultures are up in the tree, or unless that carcass is completely finished already. The resting lions. Sean from Secunda. Afternoon, Sean. Now, for those of you who don't know, Secunda is just it's just south of Johannesburg, so not too far out of Johannesburg. A few hours, hour or two. Sean, you want to know how much food or meat these lions can feed on? Now, Sean, it depends, but it can be a few kilograms of food. Now, they gorge themselves on food, so they'll eat. It can be between almost 10 and 15 kilograms of food in a sitting, or 10 or 15 kilograms of meat in a sitting. That's huge. But you can imagine these big animals. That's understandable. So they can eat a huge amount, if not more. And then they'll wait till they digest a little bit of it, and then they'll go back and feed again until that carcass is finished. They'll spend 2 days with the carcass sometimes. I mean, you can see these bellies of these lions. They are so full. They are bulging at the moment. And I think that's also why they are just resting, lying out in the open. That male's got a beautiful mane, a little bit darker at the bottom. Now the theory is, of course, that the males with the darker manes perhaps have a bit more testosterone than the males with the lighter manes, and are probably more dominant. Now I have seen a coalition where also a coalition of 4, where there was one male that had a particularly dark mane, and he did come across as the more dominant one. It was between him and one other male, but the darker one, and again, I mean, I don't know how true it is. They obviously do studies on it and so on. But I think so. From what I've seen, the darker ones do tend to be a bit darker, more dominant. But then, of course, you get the Kalahari lions, which are known for their very dark black manes. They're sometimes known as the Kalahari black-maned lions. But now I wonder if that's not purely based on the area that they come from. Genetically, animals, birds, all of those that wildlife, the color can vary depending on where they come from in Africa. Slightly further east, they tend to be perhaps a little bit darker, and further west, maybe a bit lighter. but then also that goes contradictory to the males on the western side in the Kalahari, which have darker manes. So I'm not sure if it's area specific or if it's genetic. I think it's genetic. Another vulture in the distance, all spotted there, perched high up on the tree. Tennis all the way from Canada. I'm not sure, Tennis, what the lion's coat feels like. I have not felt a lion or rubbed a lion, but apparently their fur is very, very coarse. So it's rough, it's coarse. That's what I understand. And you're right, the leopard coat is apparently very soft. It's interesting, but I have touched a cheetah before, and a cheetah coat is also very coarse. So they say the cheetah and the lion have coarse fur, and the leopards have got very soft fur, which is interesting. It's always great seeing some other tourists out here and enjoying these sightings with us. A few vehicles that have come and viewed these lions. A lot of people on safari. There are some wonderful lodges in this area within the Sabi Sands. Many, many different lodges, and it is one of, in my opinion, probably one of the best areas for game viewing, especially in South Africa. I think it's by far the best. There's just something special about the Greater Kruger National Park. A lot of history, and these animals have all been here for many years. These game reserves have been going for over 100 years. You can see the lion paws and the tracks in the sand just behind it. Have a look there. Here are the lion tracks. They look quite fresh. Who said I can't track? It's funny. It's a very peaceful watching lions resting, and it's calming, I think. And you know, often people think, oh, they're sleeping again. Let's just move on. But you know, lions are clever. They conserve their energy. They'll probably start moving around a bit later. If we're lucky, maybe we get a roar out of them. That would be wonderful. Now I'm going to quickly see if I can reposition, see where that carcass is. While I do that, James has still got some offspring of the Birmingham males. Let's go and have a look. Tristan, I'm going to stay off the khaki fever for the moment. Now, the little side-striped jackal that we saw just moved into the long grass. We can't see him. He's lying flat, hiding from us. Yeah, I'm sure he will go and try and get a little piece of anything that's left around that carcass at some point. These males have not moved, and I don't think they're going to move for a little while longer. I'm almost thinking that I'm thinking what we should do is maybe leave the males, and we'll come back possibly a little bit later, maybe in half an hour's time. See what they get up to. Oh, this one's just lifted his head. Don't know if he had some biting flies or something. Something's bitten him. But they seem still very relaxed. And again, I think it's full bellies. And it's always tricky now, and you know, you can never tell when these animals are going to move and when they're not going to, especially on cool days like today. So I don't know if they're going to get up and move in the next 5 minutes or in the next hour. It's always difficult, and I get nervous in this situation, and I'll tell you why. Is because I get nervous because I don't know if I should leave and come back, and judging, I mean, with the experience I've got, generally, the lions will wait till a bit later and then move, but sometimes, and it has happened before, we leave a sighting, we go back and the lions are gone. Literally 10 minutes, half an hour later or so. So it does depend. You got to be, never know really. And I'd love to hear these males roar this evening, and again, there's no guarantee they would do that either, but I'm hoping they decide to. Still very peaceful. It's such a nice afternoon. Sharon, I don't think there's a difference between fur and hair. The lions, you could call it their fur or their hair or their coat. From what I understand, there isn't a difference between fur and hair. If anybody is watching and you can tell me if there is definitely a difference between fur and hair, I'd be curious. But I wonder if it's not in terms of if it's given to the name or the term is used for animals. That's you use fur, and perhaps for people you use hair. I wonder, but then again, elephant have hair, so elephant definitely don't have fur. Unless, is it not if it covers the whole body, it's known as fur. But then again, I suppose we've got hair all over our bodies, so I don't know. I'm stumped. I don't know, but I wonder if it's not a case of fur covering the body, perhaps, and then the hair. Let me know if anybody is watching and can give me something more substantial than what I've come up with. That would be great. I've never thought about that, what the difference between fur and hair is. James is furry and Tristan is hairy. Perhaps. Oh dear. I might get into trouble for saying that. The two boys might form a coalition and gang up against me tonight. Or would we call it the Hendry coalition? Because I doubt James would take Tristan. What's Tristan's surname? I'm not sure. Yeah. So maybe the Hendry coalition could gang up on me this evening. You never know. I think they'll need more. They'll need more members of their coalition. I think James was just having a bit of an issue with his earpiece. He's just quickly stopped back at the DRC. I don't know. It could have been to fix the earpiece or for a cup of coffee. They were quite jealous this morning when Jeandre and I had that lovely cup of coffee in the tent. I enjoy the tent. It's different, but I find it can be tricky at times because you're not seeing different animals. You're not seeing birds fly past all the time. You're not hearing different sounds constantly. So to find content, and James is brilliant at it. He manages to find stuff all the time, and manages to find things to speak about. And but it can be tricky at times, I think. But it's nice. I think it's a nice link, perhaps, between the two presenters that are out in the bush too. And if there's additional information that needs to be told, then it's a nice place to look for that. So, yeah, the tent is great. I do enjoy it. And I didn't break anything this morning, so James is happy. Now, Lael from Washington. Lael, no, you would not be allowed to honk or hoot at the animals with your vehicle if you were driving along the road. That obviously would be frowned upon. Now, obviously in these areas, we would never do that. This is private land. It's only the game drive vehicles. We call these game drive vehicles, or some people refer to them as Jeeps or Land Rovers. But the game drive vehicles, that's the only vehicles used in these areas. This is not open to the public. The only way you get in here is if you are a guest at one of the lodges within the area, or if you are a landowner. And there are some private lodges around here that are owned or privately owned camps. That is the only way you get in here. So those people would definitely not do it. But in the national parks, like in Kruger National Park, it is open to the public. There are many rest camps throughout the national park. The roads are very different. You're not going to drive on roads like this. Some of the roads are tarred, so much easier to move through the game reserves. And the reason for that is because it is open to the public. The people take their own vehicles. They are allowed to drive through there, but they have got very strict rules. You're not allowed to drive off the road at all. You have to be in the camp by a certain time in the evening. Actually in the late afternoon, before it gets dark, you have to be back in the camp. There are patrols constantly around monitoring the vehicle movements. You also can only leave camp at a certain time in the morning. And there are fences around the camp to protect the people. Obviously, because the general public might not necessarily know as much about the wildlife as we do, for example. So there have to be strict rules in place. But in those national parks, you never know what the public do at times. And if there's something on the road, you do get the odd individual who just has no respect for animals, unfortunately, and that's what it comes down to. May hoot or make a noise to chase an animal off or away from the road, and that's just sad. We don't want that. So hopefully those people watch shows like this and they learn a little bit more about respect for the animals and viewing animals and what to do in situations when you are in a game reserve or a national park. These lions are just rolling over, bellies still bloated. Larry, thank you very, very much. That is very interesting, and I did not know that. Larry just gave us some information on fur and hair. Now, the fur and hair seem very similar. They're both keratin-based. Now, keratin we know is what makes up our hair. However, hair will continually grow throughout an animal's lifespan or our lifetime, whereas fur, once it reaches a certain length, stops growing. So that's very interesting. I did not know that, Larry. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's so nice to be able to learn stuff like this constantly on Safari Live. And we do. And, I've been doing this for many, many years. But you do constantly learn while out in the bush. And every day I'm learning something new. So thanks, Larry. Anyway, let's head back to the bushwalk, the brave bushwalkers. See what they have got. It sounds like they're treading on eggshells. Are we back with the male lions? They haven't really moved. One moved off a little bit, but there's still two lying just in front of us over here. I was hoping they'd start waking up round about now and possibly calling, but it doesn't look like it. They look like they're very relaxed and happy and full. Thanks very much again to Tristan. I hope you enjoyed your bushwalk. We'll see you back at camp. It's starting to get a bit dark now. You're losing quite a bit of light. I think also because of the cloud cover, so it's going to get dark fairly earlier. You can see breathing quite heavily, and that's because they're so full. That's exactly why he's breathing heavily. Full belly. It's very quiet at the moment. I'm just listening around. I don't hear any birds. It's very, very quiet. One could possibly say eerie. And John, all the way from Connecticut. Yes, John, you know, some of the rain does wash away the scent marks that these animals leave. And you may have seen the other day when we found Tingana, the big male leopard, the dominant male leopard, he was moving around scent marking. So some of that heavy rain that we had could dilute the scent, could wash some of it away. And you'll find usually after rain, a lot of these animals move around quite a lot and kind of scent mark their territory again. But they're always constantly patrolling, but especially after rain, yes, definitely. As I was saying, don't hear too many birds around. I just saw a European roller fly over. I did hear an owl earlier, the wonderful pearl-spotted owl, one of my favorite owls, and just by the call. It's that and the Scops owl for me for some reason. It just reminds me of a good friend of mine, and do enjoy hearing the Scops owl. The Scops owl sounds like this. It goes grr, 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 grr. That's a Scops owl. And then the pearl-spotted owl has got that wonderful whistling sound. Now let's see if I can get that right. See, couldn't even tell it was me. It was. I'll play the sound for you of both, and let's see how close I was quickly. Well. I'm laughing because of the spelling of this morning. James and I had a good chuckle about the spelling fiasco we had this morning. It was quite entertaining, and we did obviously enjoy it. And Jamie, you wanted to know, do I think we see more birds when it's sunny? Yes, definitely. Sunny conditions, warm conditions, you probably see a lot more bird activity. Also because there are most likely a lot more insects around for the birds to catch. A lot of the bird species out there do feed on insects. Let me play these as the little Scops owl for you. Okay, listen to this. That was close. I'll quickly show you a picture of the Scops owl. You may have seen it before. Tiny little owl, very, very beautiful. That's it. Small, also about the size of my hand, not very big at all. Lovely owl. And the other little one is the pearl-spotted owl. Let me just find that quickly. I'll play that call for you. So it does two kind of calls, but you'll hear that whistling one that I did for you. It does a constant, and then a little bit of that, or it does that ascending. Let's see. I think they've got it on here too. Doesn't sound like they've got that one. Let me show you a picture of this one quickly. That's the pearl spotted owl, and they've got really, really beautiful speckled bird. Okay, now James is still at Chitwa Dam, I think. Well, let's go get an update from him and see how the floating hippo are doing, or not quite floating, I suppose. James, shame, that's a bit harsh. I don't think you baboon-like at all. Who said that? That's not fair. I don't think that's a fair comment. James, you better go and get the apple juice ready for when we get back. I think this evening requires an apple juice. Are we still sitting with these lions? I really hope you've had a wonderful drive with us, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on our Sunset Safari. It's been great. Thank you to James, Tristan, Batman, and Jeandre, and Dave and myself. It's been great having you. Louise and Kirsten, the voices in my head, thank you. Thank you to all the viewers. We'll see you all tomorrow morning for our sunrise safari again. I'll be on a vehicle. I think Tristan will be on, and James will possibly be doing walk or tent. Good night from South Africa and Safari Live. Goodbye, everyone.